All right. So excited to be doing the first stream on this idea that I've been thinking about called Kinesthetic Esoterica. And so here comes up the banner. So this idea of Kinesthetic Esoterica is something that I've known intuitively. I'm not even listening to anything, but I need to put the headphone in just because it feels more in the mode. Um, and kinesthetically that feels right for me, so I'm going to do that. But so I did this before, but I'm just going to show kinesthetic relating, and let me pull it up here, that way you can actually see it. Boom, boom, there we go. And I'll just blow it up a little bit because I did this before, but this is like my first official, like, okay, this is my idea of kinesthetic esoterica, and fleshing out the first portion of what the idea is so I can actually refine and get better. So, kinesthetic, relating to a person's awareness of the position and movement of the parts of the body by means of sensory organs, proprioceptors, and muscles and joints. And then, just real quick, what does it mean to be very kinesthetic? The adjective kinesthetic comes from the noun kinesthesia, which means the sensory perception of movement. Kinesthesia happens when the brain gets feedback from muscles and ligaments about how the body is moving. Dancing is a kinesthetic art form. What is a kinesthetic learning style? This is kind of just a little brief learning style of obtaining information. Kinesthetic learning's primary premise is that a student learns best when shown simulations, presentations, and videos, or when moving around in a hands-on environment. Yeah, like critical. We need more hands-on moments and less just sitting. What is an example of a kinesthetic person? Likes physical rewards, emotion most of the time, likes to touch people when talking, taps pencil or foot when studying. And then, uh, what is kinesthetic and its example? Not really that one. This is interesting that are kinesthetic learners ADHD? Studies have shown that kinesthetic learners are sometimes diagnosed with ADHD because they were moving in and out of their seat a lot. It's like fuck that, man. Like just because you like to move around doesn't mean you have ADHD. And if you have ADHD, that's fine, whatever. But it's like we want to assign someone a label so that we can categorize them and all that stuff. But it's like, we've been moving thousands of years, tons of through family lineages. It's like that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be moving. Like this is like the exact opposite. Within the past like 60 years, we're sitting and being more sedentary. It's like, there's like obese is the other term for that, but it's like, I don't know. That's funny that they would be like, hey, if you like to, because you might go back up to this one. It's like taps pencil or foot when studying. It's like, oh, you might be a kinesthetic person and you might have ADHD. It's like there's already something. So that's so funny that like there's always this little hint of like something might be wrong with you and maybe you need some therapies. The therapeutic state. We can help you. Um, then I'm going to go to the other term, esoteric, just to review, intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interests. I like this term because it just, for me, what it means is that you're getting more myopic in your understanding of whatever the material or subject is. And it's not easily exoteric. It's not right out in the open in front of you to witness. So that's my kind of breakdown on kinesthetic esoterica. And so my shorthand, now that I've kind of spelled it out, is that our bodies have deep knowledge. An easy example is when a little baby gets out of the pool, they start to shiver. Our bodies innately know how to shiver. It's like, I'm sure there's like really good evolutionary biology, like conversation about like why that happens. But it's just like, no one had to teach you how to shiver, and there are so many things that we know how to do innately that no one's taught us how to do. And then that brings me back to what I said in a previous recording, that maybe there is deeper knowledge that the human body has that we've forgotten. And who's to say that we are at the pinnacle of physical expression as of now, or that the future holds the pinnacle, maybe the peak of human performance that is, several thousand years ago. So this is what I'm trying to understand about kinesthetic esoterica, that our bodies hold deep knowledge, and that I think in our lifetime, in a person's lifetime, they could actually uncover deep body knowledge on their own. Like, there's no gatekeeper. You would need to like work on it, of course, but like that every person in the world can tap into this. And that brings me to like when I said, I think given enough time, I could teach anyone how to do a handstand. I'm not special that I can go upside down. I just have had enough teachers and time to practice this. So I think almost all humans could go upside down. And even if that was like, the one goal that I set out to do before death, like, make handstands like popular again to the lay audience. Handstands are still popular. They're really popular. There's like a whole subculture about handstands and one-arm handstands and all hand balancing. So it would be pretty neat to present that to the lay person and become more commonly accessed. It's like, when are you going upside down? No one goes upside down more. Like, so that's Kinesthetic Esoterica. And a short movie that I'm going to show, next banner, is the short vignette, or however you call it, is a world record, and it's in the Animatrix. So let me go to that. Boom. And I'm going to just play it a little bit while I just chat. So this short is part of the anthology series. That's what it's called, anthology series. World record. The name of it's world record. It's from the Animatrix anthology that came out about, early 2000s, and it's profiling this guy who's a track runner that is trying to exit.
This frequency will continue to remain open.
Beat the world record for the
Very
sprint.
rarely, some gain this wisdom through wholly different means. This man is one of those few.
Gentlemen, please take your marks.
So it's like showing his body starting to break down. He's pushing the limits of, boom, his quad has ripped. What? Oh no. So that is the short Animatrix vignette world record. Like, I keep fucking up. And with that, I'll leave it there. If you'd like to see the rest of it, I encourage you to go check it out. It's on YouTube, and it's pretty dope. But I show that because within the whole story, it presents this idea that there's and I'm not trying to escape reality, but there's a way that you can gather more information about this reality through your physical practice. And that's what this guy's doing, this sprinter. He's pushing his physical limits to expand the possibilities and to maybe even peer outside of what our current reality is. So that's a really good example. And this I saw years ago, and I did a short presentation for it in college, that there is the ability of the body to move that can help us go beyond language. Primarily, that's what I'm thinking. Like, that language is awesome, but sometimes you need to go beyond that. So now this is the next tab. While I just kind of talk about my main point, is my first demo reel, and I'll hide the banner. So while I chat, this is my first demo reel for when I was just getting out of college and was trying to get professional jobs. And this is super old. This is like 2010. It was mostly in University at Buffalo, SUNY Buffalo dance program. And I was pretty much garbage. Like, most of my dancing movement career up until like the end of college, like 2010 is when I kind of got decent. But most of like my middle school, high school training was just like rough, where like I didn't get the combinations, I didn't get the timing, I didn't get the emphasis on some of the movements. And only towards the very end, like of maybe 12 to 13 years of training, since I was maybe, at least like 7 for gymnastics, and then gymnastics and dance by 10, and then by the time I graduate, I'm like, what, 21? So yeah, like at least 10, 11 years of like almost 5 days a week of physical practice. This is me like when I'm about, I think, 14. I just went into high school and did this somewhere in Manhattan. And anyway, the main point about this presentation is to talk about ballet. And that was one of the modalities I studied, that and modern dance, the Martha Graham technique, and a little bit of jazz and tap and improv. But the idea of ballet being this platform that can help elevate us out of the normal movement patterns that we have, and could be a way to explore higher ideas, to go into high society, and to have deeper and richer experiences with just anyone out there, and expressing yourself. So, and then I'll let that play for a second more, and then I'm going to play something else while I actually do the ballet presentation. So I'll let that play, and then, here, I'll play the audio of this because it's super old.
And caffeine, which explored space. Going to the University at Buffalo after high school helped develop my technical training further in classical ballet, pas de deux, jazz, and modern. Although I found modern to be by far my favorite.
This is kind of not happen, and I want to be all about me this whole time, so I'm gonna mute it, let it play out. But now I'm gonna go to the actual presentation. Maybe I'll put a timestamp to just jump ahead. So this is all about ballet and the history of ballet, very brief. And I think there's deeper mystery to ballet that should be explored. And this is the first little into it. So where did ballet begin? Ballet originated in the Italian Renaissance courts during the 15th century. It later developed further in France, particularly during the 17th century under King Louis XIV, who was a passionate supporter of the art form. Why did King Louis promote the 14th promote and support ballet? King Louis XIV promoted and supported ballet for a few reasons. Firstly, he saw it as a way to showcase his power and wealth, using grand, extravagant productions to impress both his subjects and foreign dignitaries. Additionally, he believed in the notion of divine right, considering himself the Sun King, and he saw ballet as a means to symbolize his authority and God-given roles as a ruler. He was also an accomplished dancer himself and enjoyed performing in ballets. His personal interest in dance and desire to participate in performances helped elevate the art form's status at his court. As a result of his support, ballet gained a strong foothold in French culture and evolved into a significant part of the performing arts. So ballet first kind of got prominent in the courts, the Renaissance courts. So I mean, like even that like only the people who were in the know and who had money and power were doing this movement that's now accessible to anyone. Was ballet originally a form of signaling your political power? While ballet did evolve into a form of expressing political power and authority, it wasn't originally created for that purpose. Ballet's origins trace back to the Italian Renaissance courts, like I said, where it was primarily a form of entertainment and courtly amusement. It wasn't until King Louis XIV, that it gained significance. And then it did become a powerful tool for rulers like the 14th to display their political and royal prowess. Did one's performance in ballet courts indicate their status in court? Yes, during the 17th and 18th centuries, one's performance in ballet courts could indicate their status and position in the court hierarchy. In the royal courts of Europe, including the French court under King Louis XIV, participation in ballet performances was often reserved for nobility and those of high social standing. Being selected to perform in these elaborate and prestigious productions signaled a person's elevated status and favor with the monarch. So even like your ability to be in the court, to move in the court, and like the better, what I remember was the better dancer you were, the more kind of political power you might have, or the more you would have favor in court, and you could get certain policies maybe presented, passed. This is the beginning. This is my first little step into it. Prominent courtiers, especially those close to the king, were often given roles in ballets as a way to showcase their importance and loyalty. The more prominent a person's role in ballet, the higher their status was considered to be within the court social structure. Like, that's awesome. You know, like, dude, you move better than this motherfucker. You're going to be higher up in the hierarchy and you have more power, political power. I think we need to get back to some of that. That's a part of what I'm feeling right now. This practice was a reflection of the hierarchical nature of the royal courts during that era, where public appearances and participation in grand displays were closely tied to one's social standing and influence. How would ballet danseurs, and danseur, danseurs, is a way of saying, like a ballerina is a female, but then you would say danseur for a male dancer. So how would ballet danseurs showcase their status? Would showcase their status in various ways within the context of the royal court or elite setting. Royal performances, and then let me just do this really quick. Is this? Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's over. Oh, okay, cool. So it's already showing this. It's probably been showing this. This is me using ChatGPT to streamline my presentation. So I'm already simulating with the AI. Okay, so here I'll blow that up just so we can see a little bit better because this is kind of cool. Maybe a little bit bigger. Oh dear. Does it even show? Yeah, that shows better. Okay. Roles and performance. The roles a danseur was assigned in ballet performances could reflect their status. More important or prestigious roles were often went to individuals with higher social standing, those favored by the court. Costumes. Yeah, so like the roles and performance. You know, if you're just the dude that's being the tree in the performance, or like you're the waiter in the banquet on stage, it's like, okay, well, you made it on stage and you're the waiter, but like if you're the person who's third in line at the table, then like, and you then have like a 2-minute solo, you're kind of more important. Costumes, that totally makes sense. Like higher ranking danseurs might be given more elaborate and ornate costumes, indicating their status and prominence within the production. And then if you think about it too, like if you have a more elaborate costume, that might actually make it harder for you to perform, you know, to do your pirouettes or whatever movement you might be trying to do. So, but I would imagine the costume designer would try and make it as light and maneuverable for the dancer. But that's something to consider too, that costumes, you might look really dope, but it's like awkward. And I've had moments where I've had costumes where I look pretty cool, but they're awkward. Solo performances. Being selected for solo performances or leading roles demonstrated a dancer's skill and status. These roles were often reserved for the most talented and respected dancers. Yeah, you get a solo, you're doing it right? Everyone's watching just solely you. Visibility. Dancers who were frequently seen performing alongside the king or other prominent figures would be associated with those in power, enhancing their own status. I mean, that's how it is today. Still, like, if you're part of someone's entourage, then you get their clout, you get a little bit of what they're vibing out, emanating out. So it's like, yeah, you want to be seen if that's what you're trying to do. I wonder though if there are people that had power that were not trying to be seen, and would stay out of the courts but still have and I'd imagine there would be people like that, the hidden hand of sorts. Participation in special events. Dancers chosen to perform at important events, celebrations, and ceremonies were often those considered of higher status, as their participation contributed to the overall grandeur of the occasion. Recognition by the king. Direct acknowledgement or recognition from the king or ruler was a significant indicator of a dancer's status. The king's attention and praise could elevate a dancer's reputation and position. So that's even cool, right? Like, you could be several rungs down, and maybe your performance was so captivating that the king was like, "Oh shit, like Joe Schmo, who I see once in a while. Is that Joe Schmo? Oh yeah, that's Joe Schmo." Schmo. I liked his whole little bit that he was doing, the duet, the pas de deux that he was doing. That was really good. You know what? Like, I'm going to shout him out, and I'm going to help bring him up into the court. I want to see more of Joe Schmo, right? Connection to the court. Dancers who had personal relationships or connections with influential court members might find their status elevated as a result. So yeah, like, even if you were not in the court, but like you were the tailor to one of the dancers in the court, you would get some of their prestige. Were there dancers in the court that were there dancers in the court that were not connected to aristocracy during King Louis? And says yes. During the reign of King Louis XIV, there were dancers in the court who were not necessarily from aristocracy. King Louis XIV established that, and I just want to talk about that for a second, like, that you might not be from aristocracy, but you're in the court, and that's the opportunity to become elevated in society just through your physical prowess. That's what ballet is. Like, it's showing grace, strength, intense coordination, all these things, beautiful musical timing. And even that, like, that ballet is always with, like, in that classical sense, with like an orchestra or some type of orchestra, is like, you have money if you are putting on production like that, because you not only have like dancers, a set, a stage, all the costumes, but you also have musicians. If you're financing something like that, and then you're a part of that production, that's overall like you're elevated in a way that, like, the eyes, we want to witness these people move this situation. So I think that's pretty cool, where you could be from a lower rung of society and train really hard. And this is like where it comes in. King Louis XIV established the Académie Royale de Danse in 1661, which later merged with Académie Royale de Musique in 1672 from the Paris Opera. One day I have to go to the opera. I've never been, but that's like something I think all people should do. See some orchestra and then go to the opera at least once. This institution provided formal training in dance and music, and it opened opportunities for individuals from various backgrounds to become professional dancers and performers. While many of the prominent roles and positions in court ballets were often given to nobility or those with connections to the aristocracy, the establishment of the Royal Academy of Dance allowed individuals from non-noble backgrounds to receive training and participate in performances as well. Over time, the Paris Opera and its associated ballet company became renowned for training talented dancers from diverse backgrounds, and some of these dancers did rise to prominence within the courtly ballet scene. His efforts to professionalize dance and make it more accessible contributed to a broader range of individuals participating in ballet and dance performance, regardless of their aristocratic connections. And this is making me think I should do more research into like that process for King Louis XIV. What inspired him beyond being the Sun King or trying to be the Sun King to support the development and codification of ballet? because before that this art form didn't exist. It's almost like like CrossFit now. When you see CrossFit coming out only 20, 30 years from now, from present day, that's so there are people that are pushing CrossFit into public awareness, and I could imagine 100 years from now that CrossFit is actually seen with even more people understand what CrossFit is, more people are excited to do CrossFit, so on and so forth. So I wonder like what that whole story is. And like lately I can't help but think that there's something like of a deeper spiritual nature that comes in and connects to these people that then makes them inspired to support this unknown art form. It's like Tai Chi. It's like, how's Tai Chi come about? And I'm sure someone knows out there, but it's like, I imagine it's just some dude in the woods just like moving super mellow, and he's just doing that for years, and then someone sees him and like, what you doing? He's just moving. And then like 500 years later we get Tai Chi. So that might be the next component of my research. So I like this part in ballet, and I'll pull up an image. Let me see. Room facings in ballet, and pull this up to here. Okay, so this is the Cicchetti method corners. Share this tab instead. Oops. All right, there we go. View StreamYard. Okay, cool. And then go back to that one. So this is, if you're in a dance studio, and in a dance studio, you have 8 different facings that you are considering when you are moving through space and engaging with the other dancers, or just moving through space, like I said. So that's in the first part. That's pretty cool that we're just even thinking about points in a room, the mathematics of that, the geometry of that, and how are we addressing space. That alone is like super far out. How often are we even thinking about that present day? How am I actively thinking about space and addressing like what my relationship is to the space and to the room and to the people that might be seeing me, and what's my facing? So that in itself is very esoteric, and I think there's much more information to be gleaned from the room facings. So, and then the other part I wanted to look at was, there we go. Okay. And then there's the positions. These are some of the positions. There are lots of positions. I'm going to pull it up right now. Well, effacé, à la seconde, écarté, épaulé. Oh, here we are. Okay, cool. So does that show view tab and StreamYard? Yes, it does, but now I need to make it bigger. Command plus. So how does that look? That's perfect. Okay. So even there's not only the facings of the room, there's like your body and how it's facing the audience. So there's at least, what is this? 6? Yeah, no, 8 different facings. I think there's way more. This is so bad that I can't recall in greater detail. That's why I'm doing this, to jog my memory. But so there's all these different facings of the body and the arms. So it's the upper body and the lower body, and then the arms. And you might have the same, like if you look at the first image on the left, and then the one right next to it. So was it croisé, quant, effacé, devant, derrière, derrière to the back, of course. Like, look at that derrière. That's so funny. Like, that's a term for the bum, but in French ballet terminology, it's from the back. Anyway, this is pretty cool. So that was the other component that I want to address. Like, there's the facings of the room, and then there's the position and the orientation of the upper and lower body. Let's go back to here. Yeah, so showing it is okay. Go back to, all right. In ballet terminology, a facing refers to the direction a dancer is oriented in relation to the audience or the stage. There are typically 8 basic facings in ballet, known as 8 directions or 8 lines of dance. Basé devant à la quatrième. Is that right? Fourth front, à la seconde, quatrième, derrière, écarté, effacé, écarté derrière, effacé derrière. And then this is the ballet corners. This is the thing about ChatGPT. Like, I knew when I first put this in, I needed to jog my memory on, because this is a better search engine in some way than Google. But I typed this in, how many ballet corners are there, because I couldn't remember offhand, and this came up with like 6, no 5, and I was like, no, there's definitely more. And of course, I then had to look for it, but ChatGPT is good in a sense that, like, if you have a general understanding of like what you're looking for, you can pick from it. So pretty much everything that I've said so far in this presentation, I feel confident standing by. It's just there are some parts, and this is the first intro presentation. I think this is the last little bit. What are the different schools of ballet? There are several prominent schools or styles of ballet that have developed over time, and there's some school from Russia, the Vaganovan method, developed by Agrippina Vaganova. There's French ballet, Italian ballet, Cicchetti method, and named after Italian dancer Enrico Cicchetti. And this is kind of cool. It emphasizes a strong foundation in technique along with musicality and expressiveness. The Royal Ballet School, and that's from the English ballet tradition, exemplified by the Royal Ballet School. Combination technique, artistic expression, and storytelling. Ooh, love stories. Balanchine technique, that's American. Fuck yeah, America. By George Balanchine, he's big time. The Balanchine technique, also known as American ballet style, emphasizes speed, musicality, and modernity. We Americans, we go fast, right? It often features intricate footwork and dynamic movements, right? So much intricate footwork in like our world right now. Nordic. Denmark, Sweden, Norway have their own ballet traditions that incorporate Russian, French, and Italian style. So it's like a little bit of everything. The Royal Danish Ballet, for instance, is known for its Bournonville technique, characterized by flowing lyrical movements. And then I was just like, is there any esoteric knowledge in ballet? And it's primarily known as performing art, and it involves skill, physical training, and artistic expression. And then it says symbolism and an interpretation. Some ballets contain symbolic or metaphorical elements that can be interpreted in different ways. So right off the bat, it's like that would be going to the ballet back in 1600s was something that not everyone could access. And so only if you had money and you were educated enough would you do something like this. And you had the resources. Like there's also the component of like you're sitting down and you're watching this performance that could go on for several hours. Do you have the time to do that as like a working person? Or do you have the money, And I would imagine too, to go and to see these performances in the 1800s when it became more accessible. Did you have the money for the clothing, for the attire to be properly dressed to enter into the theater? So that being said, I'm sure there's tons of symbolic movement and imagery and gestures that are in ballet that only the higher class would see, be exposed to, and then could take into the regular world and might be able to signal to other people through certain movements. And a great example of this is in the b-boy stance, where you have the arms crossed like this and there's that like rock to the side. I'm pretty sure that's a gesture within Freemasonry, and b-boys have kind of, I'm sure for many reasons, but anyway, there's symbolism in our movement, and that's like a easy off the hand way of thinking about it. Dancers and choreographers may infuse their performances with deeper meanings or emotions. And I think too, like dances could act as a physical sigil in a sense. The choreographer, I know I've worked for choreographers, and the performances I've been a part of were definitely charged. There was intention, there was something that was given to the performance, and that was in like not just like respiration, I'm sweating, there's blood, that was given, there's a lot of heartache and pain. So there's physical and emotional pain, that charges it. And then the people watch this and they are giving their energy to the performance. So I think like there's so much to this idea of symbolism. Ballet history and terminology. The history of ballet, its terminology and stories behind classical ballets can be seen as specialized knowledge area, right? Like that you have the combination of words to understand, like pas de chat, like step of the cat. And so that you understand like what this, or that you're even English and you understand a little bit of French and you understand, oh, it's called pas de chat because the movement resembles that of a cat leaping. And then you can take that French vernacular, embody in your physical American body. So there's even the language and those words. Body awareness and energetic flow. Some dancers and instructors may explore a heightened sense of body awareness. Of course, I mean, even when you're beginning, like anyone who does ballet will experience this. Deeper connection with one's body and movements. Yep. Mystique of dance mastery. The pursuit of mastering ballet. I love that. The pursuit of mastery. That's what my life is dedicated to. The pursuit of mastery. Not at no point do I ever think I will master any of this, but it's the pursuit of mastery that is intriguing. And achieving exceptional artistic expression could be seen as a personal journey with elements of dedication, self-discovery, and discipline. Philosophy and artistic expression. While not esoteric in the traditional sense, ballet can have a philosophical dimension related to creativity, artistic expression, exploration of the human experience. Primarily physical and artistic discipline. Right there, ChatGPT isn't going to tell you like, hey, there's some deeper meaning to movement, and don't think about it. It's just about movement. And if you move too much, you have ADHD. So stop moving, stop bouncing around. Let me pull up something really quick so I can have my kind of closing. Hey, look at me. Share this tab instead. And then let's do Pilablus again. Ooh. Okay, cool. And tab in StreamYard. All right. Cool. So this is Pilablus. They're a modern dance company that still is performing. They're exceptional. I almost performed with one of their Shadowlands company, but I turned it down for nonsense. Could have been a whole anyway. So this is close to ballet, but I mean, all their dancers are classically ballet trained dancers that do more experimental and exploratory movement. And they call it modern, but like a lot of these dancers are like highly trained ballet dancers. They don't, but you don't think that. You think like these are just regular people. These are people who have dedicated thousands of hours to their physical practice in ballet. It's not just like, oh, I took a couple hip hop classes. It's like, no, you almost all of them. Yeah, even this, like this is the beginning of partner acrobatics. So this was, I want to pull this up here so I can see. Okay, cool. And then let me make this smaller. So this was my first presentation of Kinesthetic Esoterica. And I feel like it was a success. I was going to say something fudge. Yeah, I think there's deeper meaning to all of the big movement practices out there. And then even think about breakdancing. Breakdancing is now starting to come into the limelight in the sense that it's going to be in the Olympics coming up, wherever that is. I know someone who's like doing a lot of the ambassadorship for that. And that's a whole story in itself. But even like breakdancing was originally seen as a street art and had no like place other than on the street, back in the 80s or whatever, late 70s, early 80s. And so now that is becoming more recognized by every people. Yeah, I mean, I think ballet is one of those deep things in our culture that we don't even realize is impacting our culture. And it's accessible to anyone. So anyone could actually take a ballet class and learn a little bit about like their body and what is actually possible for expression and for physical strength and poise. All little kids should be taking ballet classes for the first few years just to get a sense of poise and like how to move through space and not bump into people. That's like another component of our world right now. Like people don't understand their kinesphere, their physical bubble that they live in. So, and I think that's on purpose. We want to be 6 feet apart. We want to make sure that we don't know our body beyond how we're told to know our body, stuffing it with food, or you have these symptoms, so you have this problem with you, and we'll medicate you this way. Oh, let me do one more because I was just about to like get on to the next part. Nectary. Not. Ooh. This is just 52 seconds. The warm embrace, right? Ooh. Whee! Ah, human centipede. Just kidding. Tie-dye. Right? Like there's even in this, right? You see there's symbolism here. This is our modern day way of like showing symbols to each other. And to most people, it's like, they wouldn't really think anything of it. Oh, beautiful bodies, or that's weird. She walked on her hands and then went between his legs. It's like, no, if you're visually or physically literate, you would be able to see some of this movement and realize there's a expression beyond language. And even that, like, that can go anywhere in the world. And like you see a certain gesture and it makes you feel a certain way without words is in itself pretty psychedelic. So I think in closing, ballet is one of our deep traditions in our world that we have forgotten about and need to reconnect with. And I'm trying to make that a thing where there's more intrigue into connecting with it. Like some average person could give two hoots about ballet or movement or dance. But if there are some people who are passionate about the occult or the hidden, if I can show them a little bit of this, they can maybe become more intrigued to move their bodies. And that's like a part of this digital off-ramp term that I'm trying to work with. What's this? So I encourage you to check out the Animatrix world record, and please leave any comments on how I should continue this investigation. I have ideas, but a part of this is me trying to interact with the audience. So I appreciate that. I'm rambling now, so beta today, better tomorrow. Thanks again. Like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. And the push-up challenge is still there. So 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups every day. I'm going to really start. I'm still doing it, but maybe reopen it in September. So tell your friends. Peace.